From the innovators of Delay of Game and 2 for 2 comes a new sports talk forum, but with the same mentality, to bring you the top sports headlines in a simple way.
With Ryan Swanigan.
Turn the camera around, bend down, get next to a stuffed puppet of a raccoon and take a selfie there. And the cows come sailing in. That's exactly the point I'm trying to make.
Not so fast, my friend.
And Brent Bonfleur.
I have nothing against women being in sororities.
One in general, that's the title of my autobiography.
Yeah, the head comb. Imagine me in a little kitty suit.
You're listening to The Route, a sports talk podcast.
Oh, welcome into another edition of The Route, another podcast as we inch closer to the exciting return, believe it or not, of Delay of Game. Ryan Swanigan with you, Brent Bonfleur with me as well.
Hey.
Who's actually back.
Back? I've been here.
Oh, you were back. I've
always been here, Ryan.
2 weeks ago, I think, happened last week. That's why I said that.
Yeah.
But it actually didn't. It actually happened 2 weeks ago, like realistic people can figure out.
I don't know what you're saying, but
I don't know
agree
either.
with you.
It's not going right in the head. Facebook.com/TheRoute2 at @the_Route2. Also on Twitter, if you want to start liking the Delay of Game Facebook page in advance, it's still Facebook.com/Delay of Game. We will be executing the beginning of the Delay of Game podcast in January. Official announcement, I guess. The work on everything has begun once again. It will be much like those of you who listened to Delay of Game before. It will be much like how Delay of Game used to be. We will also keep some of the elements of the route in Delay of Game, so kind of a combination of the old Delay of Game and the route, and then it will be officially the new Delay of Game podcast. And then the route will cease to exist, so don't be looking for the route anymore come January 1st, 2nd of 2016. So just an FYI heads-up scenario for you all, as Delay of Game will be returning. I'm excited. Brent's excited. I think there's a couple of other people who are really fired up. Oh, you want applause? Oh, I know what we got.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want the little kid's birthday party, which is the second time I've used that in a sentence today.
Oh, yeah, the little kid's birthday party. Oh, goodness. Good show in store today. We're kind of going back to the old format today. We've got Out of Play. We've got Under Review. We also finally have an intro for Brent Bonfleur's segment.
Yay.
So we're going to have that. Oh, yes.
Yay.
But, finally. A little slow.
Thanks, guys.
Hey.
They've always got my back.
He's a good kid.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll have that, and how this is actually going to go is my rant is going to also be coordinated with Brent's That's What's Really Going On with Brent Bonfleur, and he's going to talk about the other side of my argument, which is the Jack Ganwish argument.
Yes, it's time for the original Ryan's rant, but Ryan goes off on something that's more fake than fake or completely improbable. This used to air on his old show, but now he's gone from that show, so he's here on the route. And so, Ryan's rant can continue to harvest life's absurd issues that have simple solutions if logic is applied. In short, we just call this segment Ryan's Rant.
Oh, boy. Always good stuff. This also will be airing in Delay of Game, because that's where Ryan's rant originally came from, was Delay of Game. So it will be there in full, and I can actually, I will talk about all sorts of things like I used to in Delay of Game. The Jack Ganwish argument, actually, speaking of Delay of Game, originally originated. That's what I was going for.
Well, you're not wrong.
It originated on Delay of Game about about almost a year ago from this time, actually. It was in December of last year. That's when the Jack Ganwish thing, I guess, the Jack Ganwish issue aired. It was, I don't know, maybe about closing in on the middle of December, and a report came out from, I don't remember who ran it, that Jack Ganwish was driving somewhere north of Lincoln, and there was a raccoon on the side of the road. And so Jack Ganwish, like any other, small-town Nebraska guy would do, gets out of his truck because for some reason in the 21st century, he wants to go take a selfie with the raccoon. So he gets out of his truck, goes to the raccoon, picks it up, tries to... he did. He successfully took the picture.
You're right.
He successfully took the selfie, and then the raccoon bit him. And Jack Ganwish freaked out, like any other person would do who would get bit by an animal. And so he just grabs the first thing that he finds in the back of his truck, which is a wrench, which I understand. You get stuck on the side of Interstate 80 or another highway in Nebraska. You got no help around for miles. You kind of need to fix your truck if something happens. You got tools in the back. So he grabs a wrench, goes and finds the raccoon, and he beats the you-know-what out of it, whacks it upside the head, and makes sure that it's dead. Because I guess we're concerned if it has rabies. I think that's what he said. Mm-hmm. So that gets released. He tweets out the selfie. Then he tweets out that he got tested. He doesn't have rabies. And this story came out. And Chris Heddy of the Daily Nebraskan, brilliant sports writer, brilliant writer in general, Chris Heddy. Go look him up. Look up the Daily Nebraskan, too. Great stuff coming out of there. Chris Heddy, surprisingly enough, called into my show at the time and sided with me and Michael Snow and Cody Broder. We all thought that this was a non-story. This was basically Jack Ganwish, who's a very smart guy, had a relapse. He did something stupid. He took a selfie with a raccoon, for goodness sakes. That's as dumb as it gets. But it's the Midwest, the middle of nowhere, small town guy in the 21st century, being one with nature, I guess, in 2014 at the time. And that's basically all there was to it. And then, a little bit after Chris Heddy called, this was surprising because nobody ever calls in at KRNU to the sports talk shows. And the only time they do is if they're guests. Well, we ended up having 3 calls that day. The first was initiated by Chris Heddy. Actually, no, Chris Heddy called after a gentleman by the name of Brent Bonfleur called in and said that this was a huge deal. This could end up turning into Jack Ganwish being, what did you say? He could, what if this was his girlfriend or something? And of course, now granted, this was in a time where you had Ray Rice going on, you had Greg Hardy going on before that, you had Adrian Peterson taking place. This was all still fresh in everybody's mind. So concerns were going all over the place about, people coming up with these ideas and stuff. And Brent Bonfleur decided to stretch this into, what if this was Jack Ganwish? We're not condoning this. And this kind of, if we're saying that there's nothing wrong with this, are we condoning a violent culture with Jack Ganwish at Nebraska? And Chris Heddy, thankfully, sided with me on this because Chris Heddy always usually gets it right. He's very, very educated, very knowledgeable person, gets it. And not that Brent doesn't, but it was kind of
thanks.
I'm serious. No, Brent is the same. And Brent sees has a more realistic approach to things than I do, and an even bigger picture to things than I do. But this was one of the times where Brent Bonfleur was just kind of, yeah, you know,
it's pretty obvious, isn't it?
He said that in his press conference after the North Dakota State loss. By the way, I laughed hard. You know, and basically Brent said that, you know, this is a very serious situation, but,
you know, and I'm not a card-carrying member of PETA by any stretch of the imagination.
Still true.
But
Still true. I don't.
This is a very serious thing that needs to be addressed, is what Brent said. And basically, the point of this rant is, ever since that aired, ever since Brent called in to delay of game almost a year ago and said that, the running joke, as there has been many running jokes with me and my shows, Amsley and the Astros, which can't really be a running joke anymore, Devin and the Yankees, you know, well, with Brent Bonfleur, it's Brent and Jack Ganwish, and how Brent just does not like Jack Ganwish. He thinks he's a, I don't know,
whoa.
a dweeb.
Okay. Hey, now don't take me out of context
am I right?
here. I have nothing against Jack Ganwish, the person.
Mm-hmm.
It's very specifically his certain actions that I have a problem with.
And I
don't know Jack Ganwish.
Right.
So I can't say that I don't like the guy.
But,
maybe I wouldn't like the guy based on what I have seen, the limited frame of things I've seen in the public eye.
But you think
probably wouldn't.
But you think that he's I want to say a danger, but a possible issue going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you're going to list your reasons why in your rebuttal
let me know when I can defend myself.
Yeah, that's what's really going on with Brent Bonfleur.
Right.
That's part 2 of the overall theme here of this podcast rants is my side and Brent's side. Basically, I think Brent is nuts here. There is nothing to possibly shadow or foreshadow or preview or anything. There's nothing out there of substance except this one incident that shows that Jack Ganwish is, I guess, to be concerned about, that he's a concern or should be a concern to anybody or society. He's not one thing like that. One thing that's as stupid as that is not something that we should condone somebody on. Doug Lowry said it so beautifully on Real Talk with John Kipper about 2 years ago. And this has been another running thing with Doug for so many years.
I mean, he's a smart kid. I mean, he's not stupid. I mean, he's stupid, but he's young. He's young stupid. He's not stupid. Alden Smith is stupid.
Now, as funny and ridiculous as that sounds, that is Jack Ganwish. You can apply that to Jack Ganwish. What he did was a young, stupid thing. Has he done anything stupid or anything remotely close to that ever since or beforehand? No. So you can't tell me that there is substance to one stupid thing. Taking a selfie with a raccoon and then taking a wrench to a raccoon after you got bit by it. It was a reaction, and it was a scared reaction. And I proposed the argument, well, what if the raccoon attacked his girlfriend? Self-defense. Simple as that. But my point is with Jack Ganwish, I cannot, for any reason whatsoever, see this respectable guy who goes out there on the football field, plays his butt off to the last breath, and then, he says, now, I'm making it sound a little stereotypical, but he really does say all the right things in the press conferences when they interview him, because he's a smart guy. He had one relapse. I highly doubt that Jack Ganwish from small town Nebraska, I'm going to find out specifically where, would possibly end up turning into a Ray Rice, a Greg Hardy, an Adrian Peterson. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem possible. Really, I cannot possibly think of any real, argument of substance to show that Jack Ganwish from Wood River, Nebraska, with Nebraska values that he was raised on, going out and breaking them. I mean...
What are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't see it. I can't see it. There hasn't been anything since that incident that has happened to him. He doesn't put himself in the spotlight. He makes sure that he stays out of the spotlight and out of incidents that could potentially put shame to his name, like a certain couple of other football players who we think are all that in a bag of chips, and turns out they're not actually quite fully 100% pure and innocent like we all make them to be. I'm not going to name names, but those of you who have been paying attention to the news in the recent week here at Nebraska know exactly who I'm talking about. Jack Ganwish is not like those people, from what we know. And if there's nothing going on with Jack Ganwish, then where is the substance to throw the potential that is out there, the possibilities that maybe could exist, but they haven't? That's like saying, for example, Denver, in the midst of being, 7-2 right now, leading the AFC West, could have the biggest collapse in NFL history. It's possible, but it hasn't happened yet. So we can't just go around saying, well, I don't know, it's like, this isn't, this, here we go again, second week in a row now. This isn't an ISIS situation, okay? That is different. That is totally different. This is not even remotely close. Jack Ganwish is not even remotely close to a terroristic threat of any way. And Brent is not even saying that. This is a more, like a domestic violence issue, I guess, what you're kind of bringing up?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah. So I say there is nothing of substance that could possibly say that Jack Ganwish has a future that could consist of that, or something could throw him into that situation. Usually guys from small town Nebraska in years past, and that's a lot of years that I'm going back to, it doesn't end up being that way. He made a stupid mistake almost a year ago now, and he learned from it, slap on the wrist, and I think he's become a far smarter person than he was a year ago, as is usually the case for just about anybody who accepts growing up and maturing. Some don't. Some do. Jack Ganwish is one of those people that does that.
You're listening to The Route, a sports talk podcast. on Facebook.com/TheRoute2 and on Twitter @the_Route2. It's time now for Out of Play, the part of the route where Ryan Swanigan and Brent Barnfloor discuss one major controversial sports story from the week.
So Brent's rebuttal to my rant will be coming up in the show. So if you want to fast forward, be my guest. But we now move on to some other things that are going on. Interestingly enough, one of the greatest college football coaches really in history right now at the specific institute known as Louisiana State University is in the hot seat because LSU has lost 3 in a row now. And basically, Nick Saban probably is sitting in his office grinning from ear to ear, seeing that LSU has been crumbling since Alabama beat what was at the time, I think, the number 2 team in the country. Was LSU ever number 1? They were a top 4.
They were 1. I don't know if they were.
I think they were 2. I think they were 2 for the 1 week, and then they lost to Alabama, and then
were they?
Yes, because Bama was 4, LSU was 2.
Oh.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
and then LSU lost, and they have lost ever since 3 weeks in a row now.
I was watching College Game Day yesterday morning, and Lee Corso, I think it was Lee Corso, said it best that Alabama ripped the heart out of LSU.
Yes, they did.
Because since then, I mean, until that point, LSU looked unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Fournette was the clear Heisman front runner. He was averaging 200 yards a game. Their defense was great. And, you know, when they did have to rely on their passing game, it came through. Since then, they've lost to, they lost to Alabama, obviously got embarrassed. Leonard Fournette had, 30 yards in that game? Something like that. Less than 50, I know. I think less than 40.
It's not good, I know that.
Yeah, really, really bad. And then they lost to Arkansas
last week.
And then they lost again, didn't they? Or have they not lost?
They lost to Ole Miss.
They lost to Ole
on
Miss,
Saturday.
Right? Yeah, Ole Miss.
Let me go back. I want to make sure that
and
was
they lost
right.
pretty badly,
so,
right?
Bama beat them 30-16.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry had 210 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on 38 carries in that game, while Leonard Fournette had 31 yards.
31. On how many carries?
I don't know. I closed out of it. Not many. No, 19. I'm sorry. 19
like a
carries.
pretty decent number. I mean,
exactly. Week 11, so this is 2 weeks ago, LSU plays Arkansas. They lose 31-14. 31-14. Leonard
to
Fournette.
a team coached by Brett Bielema.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
19 carries, 91 yards. What, you don't like Brett Bielema?
Well, not that I don't like him, but he's just kind of a hot mess.
Yeah, that's very true. And then in Saturday's game, so this is loss number 3 in a row now.
Yeah.
LSU loses 38-17 to Ole Miss. LSU on the road. Leonard Fournette, 25 carries, 108 yards. Much better.
He also had about 70 yards receiving, too.
Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, the LSU offense had 2 interceptions, 1 passing touchdown, while the Ole Miss offense had 152 rushing yards and only 280 passing yards.
Mm.
That does not really make sense. That's not a little. That's an average number.
Yeah, right.
Rushing and passing,
average. Yeah.
That's average. LSU had 324 yards passing. That's above average.
Yeah.
184 for LSU. That's below average considering who you have in the backfield.
Right.
That's Leonard Fournette. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of games that happened this weekend didn't really make sense. Utah losing to UCLA, that did not make sense. Florida in overtime against Florida Atlantic, that did not make sense. Oklahoma State losing at home to Baylor for the first time since 1939. That didn't make sense either. Like I said, a lot of things didn't make sense this weekend. But the biggest one of them all, probably outside of Michigan State and Ohio State, and we'll talk about that in a moment, was LSU losing to Ole Miss 38-17. And it just, I don't know. LSU and Memphis have both been in the same boat ever since both of them lost on the same weekend, but mind you. They both, this is what's really weird. They both lost on the same weekend. LSU to Bama and Memphis to Navy. Navy slaughtered Memphis 45-20. Ever since LSU and Memphis both lost in the same weekend, they've both continued to lose. They've both lost 3 in a row. That's what I think is really weird. But the point with all of this is
Les Miles.
Les Miles.
Yeah.
And Les Miles has done such a great job there, but LSU standards are a little bit higher than, for example, Nebraska standards. Although Nebraska standards are pretty gosh darn high. LSU may be a little bit higher than Nebraska. And there was a big Twitter war last night that happened about rumors circulating that Les Miles had been fired. Turned out to be false, but it's basically sparked the question, should he be fired? I don't know. I don't know yet, because there are cases for both sides. You have Leonard Fournette. You have an experienced quarterback in Brendan Harris, who threw for 324 yards last night. But you've lost 3 in a row. You lost to a terrible Arkansas team. Now, granted, you got dominated by Alabama, but that was on the road. So that I get a little bit. Alabama's very good. But Ole Miss is not exactly that challenging to win at. And you're better than them. And again, you have Leonard Fournette, who had a good game. Not a great game, good game. But I don't know. I would say Les Miles has history on his side.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And he has his record on his side. And
who does this remind you of?
I was just going to get to that.
Yeah.
It feels like Nebraska.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly
Bo
what this
Pelini
is.
did a great job at Nebraska.
Right.
But he didn't win the big games.
Right. Les Miles
has won the big games. He's done a fantastic job at LSU. And
he has not won the biggest game.
He's won a national championship.
I know.
What more could you want?
Well, but I'm talking about over time.
It's
right.
very hard to consistently win national championships.
I'm not
to
saying
win
that.
2 in a row is...
Hold on. Let me finish my sentence.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Les Miles has not, since that national championship, which was a while ago, which is what, 2007? 2007 to 8.
Yeah, 2007.
Yeah.
That was Bo Pelini's last year there as defensive coordinator.
2007. So that's been 8 seasons. Since then, he has not won one. Reasonable people, such as myself and you, look at that and you're like, okay, well, we can't expect to win every year. And even one championship every decade would be great, which is probably about what Les Miles can give you. You know, that could mean it's 15 years before you see the next one. But, you know, hey, he gets it and he's in contention most years. It's the same principle as Bo Pelini. It's just different numbers.
And different character, too. Bo Pelini,
well, yeah,
you know, Bo Pelini is not even close to the level of Les Miles.
No, that
so
hurts.
these are
that
two
hurts
different types of characters.
Les Miles' personality is much more attractive than Bo Pelini.
Absolutely.
Just as anything but like a grizzly bear is more attractive than Bo Pelini's personality. So just ask that poor girl on the sideline at Youngstown State whose face made the rounds on the internet. So horrified by whatever he was saying. But so Bo lost 4 games every year. They were the biggest games. 3 to 4.
Yeah,
they were the biggest
goes
games.
goes to the exact number of 4. No, it wasn't 4.
Okay, he loses 3. The number does not matter.
2 1 year.
Yeah, I'm making a point here.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the number is, but it was his number that he could not overcome, and he lost these big games every year. Right? Mm-hmm. He won everything else. It was great. Bo's a great coach all these other times.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. Les Miles is the same thing. He, instead of losing 3 games, loses 1 to 2. Mm-hmm. But for him, at his level, the 1 or 2 that he loses is to Alabama every year. It's like the same thing to Wisconsin for Nebraska and Bo. Like Alabama is Les Miles, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. He can't beat them no matter what. He just can't do it. I know he did once. He did once. Right. Like Nebraska did once, like homecoming that year, There are exceptions. But generally, this is why there's the issue, is because he cannot beat Alabama. Now, again, reasonable people such as,
ourselves.
I'll say you and me.
Whatever.
Such as myself.
The reason why Brent's saying that, quick side note, is because I'm all over him about Florida Atlantic taking Florida, a top 10 team, to overtime at Florida in Gainesville.
We'll talk about that sometime.
Yeah. But I do digress.
Reasonable people look at what Les Miles has done, and you say, there's no way you fire this guy. If he wants to leave, okay, well, you can't really stop that once his contract is up. He can leave.
The same thing happened with the national media perspective of Bo Pelini at Nebraska.
Yeah.
Reasonable people outside of Nebraska and maybe Iowa, the Husker Nation,
yeah, right,
saw that and was like, you can't fire that guy. Who are you going to replace him with?
Yeah, exactly. Because they aren't.
They're not finishing at Bill Callahan numbers.
They don't have that scarlet and cream haze obstructing their mind and their eyes.
Exactly.
They can see clearly what is actually going on.
They're not finishing 5-7 and not making it to a bowl game.
Yeah, right.
They're finishing above 500 consistently and getting to bowl games and sometimes winning them.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
Against SEC teams.
I bet you if Bo had stayed for 10 more years, he probably would have won a couple of Big Ten championships in that time.
Exactly.
Who knows when they would have come? I don't. I'm just guessing based on how he performed. There are always going to be exceptions. Well, that's typically what you can expect. That's typically what you can expect with Les Miles. Again, the question is, who are you possibly going to replace him with?
Well, that is the interesting point to this part. LSU boosters reportedly, according to SB Nation, they want Jimbo Fisher out of Florida State.
Ugh.
It doesn't really make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
But that's who they are calling for.
I doubt that will happen.
They want LSU boosters, again, according to SB Nation, want Les Miles out, and they want Jimbo Fisher in.
Why?
At the end of the season.
Why?
I don't know why.
I mean, Jimbo Fisher's a good coach, but he's not anywhere near as proven.
Give Jimbo Fisher a good quarterback, like Jameis Winston, for example.
Yeah, right.
And they will succeed.
Well, and a first-round wide receiver to throw to, and a great defense that pretty much all of the players who were eligible were drafted. Yeah,
you don't get
helps.
Great quarterbacks at LSU.
Yeah,
you get great cornerbacks,
running backs, wide receivers,
defensive linemen.
Yep, wide receivers are amazing.
You know, Les Miles recruits.
They can't get a quarterback. Yeah, there's literally everything else.
LSU gets probably the equivalent of a Nebraska-type quarterback, except for Zach Mettenberger. Zach Mettenberger was a little bit higher caliber than the rest of the quarterbacks that have been at LSU.
Yeah.
And that's basically Nebraska level. There's Nebraska level quarterbacks. You could throw Tommy Armstrong down there at LSU, and you probably get the same result.
Right.
Because LSU quarterbacks and Nebraska quarterbacks have been at the same level.
Yeah. Similar thing.
Now, again, with the exception of Zach Mettenberger. It's what Les Miles does outside of the quarterback position that makes LSU great. He targets other areas of his team that are important. Cornerbacks, linebackers, or mainly what we just listed. Cornerbacks, defensive linemen, offensive linemen, running backs, and wide receivers. He doesn't really go after the quarterbacks as much, which may be a slight flaw. But if you have every other piece of your football team with 5-star players just spilling out from all over the place, then you're going to be okay. And that's what LSU State is.
So what does a reasonable person do here? Do you take a guy who checks 9 out of 10 boxes and say, well, he doesn't have this box checked, and we're not winning because of that, so let's get rid of him and replace him with someone else who maybe doesn't even check that many boxes, like Jimbo Fisher? Or do you replace maybe an offensive coordinator or a quarterback's coach whose one job is to check that final box, and you replace him and get a guy who's charismatic and can bring in that final recruit they need? What does a reasonable person do here, Ryan?
You know I'm laughing?
Huh?
What does this sound like? What does this sound like? What are we talking about here?
Practice?
No. Well, no.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about Nebraska from a year ago. This is the exact conversation that I had on Delay of Game, that you probably had on 2 for 2, that everybody in Nebraska was having. Do you fire a coach who's getting 8, 9 of the 10 boxes checked, or fire a coordinator who's not doing their job, a.k.a. at the time, John Papuchis, Rick Jasinski? And for
LSU, it might not even be
quarterbacks.
Might not even be their coordinator. Obviously, their offense is still producing pretty well. I mean, not in the last 3 games, obviously, but over the span that Les Miles has been there, their offense has never really been a huge issue.
I would say, in response,
do you get rid of their lead recruiters? I mean, who are the guys really going out and recruiting these players? Les Miles, let's face it, it doesn't have time. He's the closer, right? You come into his office or whatever, and he closes the deal with you, or he goes to your house and closes the deal. He doesn't go out and really do the recruiting himself. I don't think. I don't know. That's mostly how it works. So they have these recruiters. What's the guy's name at USC who's so good?
It used to be Ed Orgeron.
Ed Orgeron. Yeah, right. Like
He's
those type of guys.
I don't know where Ed Orgeron is.
I don't know where he is now.
I want to find out.
When he was at USC, he was like the gold standard for recruiters, right? So you have guys who do that. Maybe LSU just needs to replace that. And they get a quarterback. Because again, what would a reasonable person do here? Look at this. We're at 90%. We need 10%. Do we bring in do we replace the guy who's giving us 90% in hopes that this other guy can fill that 10%? What if he doesn't fill another 10% and you still lose? What does it matter? It makes no sense to fire Les Miles. It makes perfect sense to identify the problem, which is the quarterbacks, and do something about that. If really the best option to do something about that is to fire him, I'm just going to go ahead and say that's not true. But if it was, then yes, you fire him. Hypothetically, if that were true, if that was the only way to solve the quarterback issues at LSU, then you fire Les Miles. But it's not.
Interestingly enough, Ed Orgeron is the defensive line coach
at LSU.
Yeah, right now. Interestingly enough, I would say I can't answer your question, and you know why I can't answer it, Brent? What do you do? Do you fire the coach or the coordinators? Because the answer to that question is probably 2 years. I think you are saying two seasons down the road at Nebraska.
Yeah.
Because Nebraska decided to fire the coach who was getting those 8 or 9 boxes checked.
Yeah. Now, great.
But had people on his staff who weren't completing that final checked box. And so Nebraska decided to clean house and start over. So the answer to your question, which one do you do, which one works, which is the correct solution to go with, we don't know yet, because that question will be answered at Nebraska, according to you, in Mike Riley's
third year.
At the end of his third season.
Third year,
yeah, at the end of the third season that he's head coach, maybe going into his fourth.
No,
then the question will be answered, at least for Nebraska's situation. Did Nebraska make the right choice? Firing Bo Pelini and staying with consistency every season, where they beat the teams they're supposed to beat, but lose the big games that matter, or start over, hire a coach who has a worse record in the big games, but is going to win. He's going to do the opposite. He's going to lose to Purdue, to Illinois, to a bad Miami team in overtime.
Consistently, though, it's his first season.
I know that. But I'm saying
it could.
Yeah.
Do you really think
hypothetically, that's what Nebraska's going to find out.
Yeah.
They're going to find out their answer in 2017, 2018. Yeah, at the end of the 2017 season, going into 2018, Nebraska will have their answer, according to you.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think it will be a couple of years. 2017 is the season to watch.
Yeah.
Going into 2018, maybe that's the season to watch as well. Which, interestingly enough, is a huge season for Nebraska, by the way, 2017, because Ohio State and Wisconsin come to Memorial Stadium. And I think Nebraska goes to Ann Arbor.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Face old Jimmy Harbaugh!
Yeah, so you'll really see what they're made of that season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be good. So, yeah, reasonable people, just like with Bo Pelini, would say, no, don't fire Les Miles. See what you can do to fix that last little bit to, check the final box, I think is what we've been saying.
Yeah.
Don't fire the guy who's checking most of the boxes.
Exactly.
Now, can it pay off? Yes. Could you bring in Jimbo Fisher and he can check all 10 boxes and boom, you go to the national championship again? Sure.
If you're willing to try and
if you're willing
get a
to try
yes
that,
to the answer to that question,
but
then
I'm guessing Les Miles isn't going to come crawling back to you 3 years down the road if Jimbo Fisher bombs.
No. Yeah, and
like he's gone.
Just
he's
like with Bo Pelini,
else.
although again, that goes back to Bo Pelini being a different type of person. Les Miles and Bo Pelini are not the same character.
Yeah, but Les Miles
by
is
any
not
stretch of the imagination.
Because Bo Pelini cannot get a job anywhere like Les Miles could. Anywhere that does not have an Urban Meyer or a Nick Saban. Can't imagine any other coach that he does not replace.
Yeah.
Maybe like Brian Kelly, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. But that's what's going on with LSU.
There you go.
Rumors floating around. And so I guess we'll just see, first of all, what happens with LSU and if they fire Les Miles. And then I guess, as I said, 2017 situation in Nebraska, they went that route. Will it pay off? We'll find out. Stay tuned, I guess. Of course, always stay tuned.
You're listening to The Route, a sports talk podcast. Available online at theroute.wordpress.com and on YouTube.
All right, so due to time constraints, we're going to cut under review. I will say this. We will have It's Your World, and we're just living in it in a little bit with something related to Michigan State and Ohio State. Baylor, Oklahoma State was the other one. Really surprising outcome from
a fun game to watch.
The third string quarterback, right? Chris Johnson, after something happened to Stidham, I guess. He got hurt, something like that.
Hey, man, this is like the week of the backup quarterbacks. Michigan State.
TCU.
Yeah.
My goodness.
All of them just going nuts.
Just so weird. I think even Oklahoma State, too.
Yeah, they were
Rudolph,
working a couple different quarterbacks.
I mean, just the numbers in this game just unbelievable, to be honest with you. Oklahoma State ended up having 8 rushing yards. 8 rushing yards. You want to know how many Baylor had? 304!
Really?
Yes.
They have that many? God.
396 passing yards. That is 700 yards exact.
Of offense.
700 yards of offense.
My goodness.
Oklahoma State had 433 yards passing. That's 441 total offensive yards if you combine the rushing yards.
Yeah.
That's
they didn't lose
insane.
by that much if you look at the offensive yardage totals and then the score.
45-35. That's only by 10.
Yeah, it's only by 10. I mean,
Nebraska Purdue right there.
And what was the yard disparity in that game?
It was very close. No, it wasn't close. Nebraska had way more than Purdue.
Yeah, see, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, anyways, we do digress. So that's under review. We'll talk about Michigan State, Ohio State in a second.
Real quickly, I'll just say that it must really suck to be a cornerback in the Big 12.
Oh, my gosh,
Can you imagine? I mean, those guys were running, 40-yard... They have to defend these, 40-yard bombs every 2 to 3 plays. Mm-hmm. They're running ragged.
Incredible.
That just must really be a tough job.
Honorable mentions to TCU and Oklahoma and Northwestern beating Wisconsin in Madison.
Fantastic.
Those great Badger fans up there, man.
Northwestern is
best
pretty
fans.
good.
They are.
They're 9-2?
Yeah, I think so.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Wisconsin, by the way, best fans in college football.
Oh yeah.
Without question. Best fans college football.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
You kidding me?
All right, moving on. Let's move on, because we got to move on to, finally, an intro with this segment.
This is what's really going on with Brent Bonfleur.
The rebuttal to Ryan's rant.
Yeah, 30 minutes removed from your thing.
This is your idea. You wanted to split up these rants instead of lumping them into one thing.
No, I wanted to put them in one.
No, I wanted to put them in one.
Well, we miscommunicated.
Obviously, you said I should rant about Jack Ganwish.
I thought we were putting them in one, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, we'll get to Brent's part later.
Well, that's going in the order of the show.
Whatever. So now I have to go back to a cold topic and try to breathe life into it again, which is fine.
It's actually, honestly, as our great friend Cody Broder would say from Delay of Game.
That's great radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You make people listen to the rebuttal later on in the show. You make them listen.
Oh.
Or, as this podcast goes, you just fast forward.
Yeah,
and
right.
boom.
It's not live.
Yeah.
You can listen to it whenever.
Exactly.
Do you like to hear yourself sounding like an idiot?
Yeah.
I've grown used to it. I don't know if I like it, but I've grown used to it.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
All right, let's start this off. Like I said earlier, I don't hate Jack Ganwish. I don't dislike the guy. I don't know him, okay? So I can't make a judgment call on what sort of person he is. My beef is... Stop.
I couldn't help it.
My beef is with his particular actions and how that makes him look. Again, I don't know if that's really the case, but based on what we've seen, that's what I'm going to go off of. And we're talking about the freaking raccoon that has made rounds. And like you said, yeah, it's a year later, and we're still talking about this freaking raccoon. First of all, I will say, I want to make it very clear that I called in to comment on this, which was a story that made national news and that you and your show were already talking about. So I did not make this a big deal. This was already a big deal.
Well, we were disproving the fact that it was a big deal. We were smushing it to the ground. And when Chris Heddy called in, after you called in and hampered it down, we're like, yeah, we were all right.
Yeah, well, you're not all right, but that's okay.
What are we talking about?
I did not make it a big deal, okay? It was already, okay, we won't even call it a big deal. It was already a deal. Can we agree it was a deal?
It was a big deal.
Okay, it was a big deal. I didn't make it that way. The general media did, okay? Mm-hmm. Your first point is the difference, thanks to Doug Lowry, the distinction between young stupid and stupid stupid.
You want me to play it again?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, he's a smart kid. I mean, he's not stupid. I mean, he's stupid, but he's young. He's young stupid. He's not stupid stupid. Alden Smith is stupid stupid.
Jack Ganwish, I think, is a bit of both. Is he young stupid? Sure, he's young. So I guess by that definition, he has to be young stupid, right?
Oh, my.
But being young is not a criterion for, okay, well, I'm young. Check. I'm going to go take a selfie with a raccoon. I was young. You were young. We've all been young, right? That doesn't mean we go take...
That's a good soundbite right there.
That doesn't mean we go pick up a raccoon and try to take a selfie with it. That is stupid stupid. Okay? That is stupid stupid. It does not matter your age. A 5-year-old, okay? We'll give the 5-year-old the benefit of the doubt. If you're 5 or under and you're listening to this, don't worry, I'm not calling you stupid. But if
Isn't this country great?
If you're 6 and up and you're listening to this and you've taken a selfie with a raccoon, you're an idiot. You don't go... First of all...
That guy's a knucklehead.
He had to see this raccoon on the side of the road while he's driving, which I'm...
At night. It was at night.
At night. I don't even know how he saw it. Probably the little beady raccoon eyes are glowing in the dark. I'm guessing that's how he saw it.
Probably.
So he had to think in his mind, maybe I should pull over and, take a selfie with this thing. Yeah, exactly. Does that sound like a good idea? No, that's stupid. So in his mind, he had to think, okay, this is a good idea. I'll pull over and take a picture with this raccoon, which I don't even know how he caught it, but somehow he catches this thing, which I guess is thanks to his gaudy athletic prowess as a Husker football player, that he was able to catch this wild animal, and then he takes a selfie with it, right? So at least he gets the picture. I'll give him credit for that. He got the picture. Then it bites him, which, as we all know, wild animals tend to do. Even domesticated animals, when scared, are going to lash out, right? Human beings do that.
Like that lady at the Henry Dorley Zoo with that tiger?
Yeah, right. Yeah. It came in there and was messing with it.
Yep.
So it, ripped her hand off or something? I can't remember what it all did.
It I don't know, ripped open her hand or something.
Yeah, okay. Well, she deserved it because she's being an idiot.
Yeah.
Everyone
she
knows.
was intoxicated.
Yeah, well, see, maybe he was intoxicated. I don't know. That
Code
never came
19.
out. So, yeah, whatever. Animals do that. Even people do that. When you're backed into a corner and something's scaring you and threatening you, you're gonna lash out. So
Not very much fun, is it?
So the animal did that, right? It's a natural instinct for the animal. And then, instead of just calling it quits, okay, you've already got the selfie.
Natural human reaction kicked in for Jack Ganwish.
Yeah, for Jack Ganwish, maybe this is natural.
Natural animal reaction, natural human reaction.
This is not a natural human reaction.
Oh, please. Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious. It's my turn to talk. You can talk in a minute.
Oh, my God.
So let me see if you can get 9 out of 10 doctors to agree with this statement that the natural human reaction in this situation is to go back to your truck, get a wrench, which I don't care for your justification of, he's a small town kid, so he's got to have a wrench in his truck. I mean, is that a smart thing? Maybe, but what are you going to fix on a car with a wrench? Not much. It's not like
you know a lot about cars, Brent.
Do you fix a flat tire with a wrench?
Yeah, depends on the situation. There might be something more than a tire that's wrong.
You're going to
with the
need
car.
more than a wrench. How do you get underneath the car to use your wrench? Anyway, so he goes. So again, this is according to you, this is a natural human reaction to go back to your vehicle, get a wrench out.
Get the first thing you see.
It doesn't
I said the
matter
first
what
thing you see.
It could have been anything. It doesn't matter that it's a wrench. It's particularly gruesome that it is a wrench, because this is like something you see in a horror movie, getting murdered with a wrench. and then go chase down the wild animal that bit you in the dark of night on the side of the highway or interstate. I don't know which.
It was a highway. It was north of Lincoln, so.
Okay, still. And then club...
The road north of Lincoln.
And then club that animal to death.
Yeah!
That's your natural human reaction. It's not to say, I probably did something really stupid here. I'm just going to cut my losses and go get this bite checked out to make sure I don't have rabies.
Which he did do that.
Yeah, eventually. Probably because he posted the picture and people were like, hey, you should probably go get that checked out because you may or may not have rabies inside you. That's not a natural human reaction to do that. And the natural human reaction is to cut your losses, realize you made a mistake, and then take care of it and not let it escalate. Jack Ganwish did not do that, as we all know. He went and clubbed the thing to death and then bragged about it on social media. That is stupid to the core. Okay? To the core. And to your other point of, well, he's a small-town Nebraska boy with good small-town Nebraska boy values. I'm from a small town in Nebraska. I don't go beat animals to death. That does not justify this in any way.
An animal.
Okay, an animal.
Animal.
I have never beat an animal to death. Okay? Spiders. Okay? I'll grant you that. I've beat a lot of spiders to death. Okay? Yeah, it's a horrible...
An arachnid.
Yeah, it's an arachnid, and really you can make an argument that it's a demon. But, who are we asking? So your small-town Nebraska boy values thing does not justify this in any sense. And where I draw a problem with this particular is because, and then something you said, and I'm not calling you out, it's just, this is the general thought, was, well, he plays his heart out on the field, and he says the right things in the press conferences. So what? That's not a justification to act like a moron.
Well, I'm not justifying him acting like a moron.
I'm not saying you were, but that's what most people will say. Well, he's just a great football player, so, hey, well, he's just guys being guys, so, let's go watch him pour his heart out on the football field. No, stop. It does not matter. He should be held to a higher standard for having that position as a Nebraska football player. Not a
team captain, too.
It allows, yeah, that blows my mind. But again, I don't know him. His teammates do. So maybe I'm way wrong. That should not even factor in. And if it does, it should factor in the sense that he should be held to a higher standard because of that position that he has. Now to my comment that I made a year ago about, well, what if this had been a girl or something that rejected him as the raccoon rejected the selfie? What if he tried to get with a girl at a party and she said no, and he beat her? You okay with that?
Like another team captain did? At Colorado? Oh, I'm not talking about the quarterback or the receiver. I'm talking about the offensive lineman.
I know who you're talking about, and yeah, they're in about the same boat in my opinion.
Oh my! You are. I knew you were going to say that.
Okay.
There is no comparison whatsoever between Jack Ganwish and Alex Lewis. You cannot tell me there is a comparison.
They are not the same.
The two.
I will grant you that they are not quite in the same boat. Jack Ganwish is below, but as far as Husker football players that are questionable characters.
Oh my God!
They are the two top candidates.
You're kidding me.
No.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not.
You know what Alex Lewis did? You know what he did after the Illinois game? He mocked the fans.
Oh, yeah.
You know what Jack Ganwish did after the Purdue game? He went into the stands and took selfies with the fans that had traveled out there.
Oh, my bleeding heart has so much sympathy.
You know how many players do that? None.
Well, good for him.
You would see stories about a player doing that, a college football player doing that.
Yeah, that doesn't justify what he did with the raccoon.
I'm not okay. I am not saying that he is justified for doing that, but I am not ignoring the fact that there are multiple factors that go into that. Young, stupid. It's not stupid. The whole purpose to take a selfie with, yes, that's stupid.
Remember, I'm not talking about I'm not talking about him as a person. I'm talking about the specific event, right?
Yes, I'm talking about the specific event,
Let's keep it in the context.
I am not clearing him of... And I have maintained this stance ever since this came out. What he did, the purpose, taking a selfie with a raccoon, I get it.
It's stupid that by any standard.
Is 21st century, 2014 stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rural Nebraska guy combining 21st century stuff all in one right there.
Yeah.
Selfie with a raccoon, that's dumb. What the heck are you doing?
Right.
You know?
Right.
That's only in Nebraska could that possibly happen, honestly. Let's be honest.
Well,
let's both be honest. I grew up close enough.
You've never been to Kentucky. So.
I don't think I want to. Or Arkansas.
No.
I've grown up close enough to farmland and stuff to where I know real farmers, how they are, and fake farmers who want to be country boys and crap. You know, I've seen all of that.
I know.
I've seen both versions.
I went to school with them for however many years.
I know. So,
since the first
Jack
grade.
Ganwish, he did a stupid thing. But you can't ignore natural human reaction. He panicked.
That is not natural human reaction.
He panicked, Brent. He freaked out.
He got
bit by a wild animal.
I think he got angry.
He got bit by a wild animal.
No.
He wasn't angry. He freaked out.
If you panic, you're going to run away. It's fight or flight. He chose fight. Panic is flight. The raccoon was not chasing him back to his truck, and that's why he got to beat it away from him.
I don't think he got angry. A guy who goes into the stands after a loss to Purdue.
That's not relevant at all.
Oh, it is. It's how you act. Look at Alex Lewis. That's how you act. How you act defines your character.
Yeah, and we're talking about one situation, not his overall character.
That Jack Ganwish did versus his proven track record, not just on the football field, but off the football field, too. There is nothing that he has done.
He went and took selfies with the fans in the stands after a loss.
Because he realized the gravity of the situation, Brent.
It's football. Come on. We're talking about football. Let's keep it in the context of one event. Going back to what I was saying.
It doesn't define what his future can be.
I'm not saying it does.
I thought you were.
No. I made it very clear. We're talking about this one situation.
Right.
Now, I'm going to get to one point, which is where you might be able to think I'm saying that, is about what if this had been a girl or something that rejected him at a party?
Yeah.
And he hit her. Is that okay?
Of course not.
Okay. So, is he ever going to do that in the rest of his life? I don't know. Do I think so? No. Do I think, based on the way he reacted with the raccoon, that might be a natural reaction for him? Maybe. Okay? Maybe he has an anger problem.
You gotta be kidding me!
That's what I think it is. Okay, well, let's call it he panics because the girl rejects him and he punches her in the face. That seems to be his reaction when things go the wrong way.
Because of one incident.
Well, look at him on the football field. He talks all this trash and stuff. If you want to talk about football, he talks all this trash and then never backs it up and gets angry when things don't go his way. And his responses before games
That's a point. He doesn't get angry. He does not get angry.
No, he does get angry. I just said he gets angry. Yes, he does.
Alex Lewis gets angry, Brent.
His trash talk is like, they're going to come in here and we're going to beat the hell out of them. That's an angry response. Yes. Or we're pretty damn sure that's not going to happen. They're not going to come in here and beat us. It's not like, we're working hard on what we do.
Mike Riley approach?
Yes. But that's why I think that it's silly to talk about football at all, including your example of him going into the stands. It's not even close to being relevant. Now, I'm not calling him a woman beater or anything. Again, I don't think he's going to do that. Do I think, based on his reaction in that situation, that might be a possibility for him? Yes, I do. Okay?
Getting rejected with words and getting bit by a raccoon is not the same thing.
It might be to a guy like that.
You just keep thinking that.
Do you know? Do you know what goes on in his head?
No, but I know you don't know either.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I'll tell you this.
That's why I'm saying this is what I think.
Consistent actions define who you are.
You're talking about one action, though.
So are you.
So what's the difference? So how can you say that consistent actions define?
Because Alex Lewis has consistent actions.
Well, who cares about Alex Lewis?
We know for a fact.
Everyone agrees he's a scumbag.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with you there.
But you are implying that there is a potential for Jack Ganwish to turn into this person that he's not. Am I right?
The potential for him to turn into that person, based on the knowledge that you and I have, is the same as the potential for him to turn into the person you think he's going to be. And really,
the person that he is.
The person that he is. Okay?
That he is right now.
You don't know what he does behind closed doors? Neither do I. Again, I'm saying he has the potential for this.
But
not that I think he will
certainly tell you that he does not put himself into the spotlight or put himself into situations where the spotlight could eventually end up shining itself on him. Except for that dumb thing.
You made the point earlier, like, this isn't ISIS. We're not comparing him to a terrorist. Mm-hmm. No, that's ridiculous. But what happened? What about criminals, okay? People who do hit their wives. When you know that someone has abused their wife in the past, what is your natural tendency to think that they might do in the future?
Do that same thing.
Right, okay?
Yes.
I'm not comparing killing a raccoon to hitting a human being as in like the severity of that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's a big difference. I'm saying in the way he acted in that situation, the violent reaction is the same. Okay, the consequences and the severity of the situations are wholly different. I'm not comparing those. Comparing the violent reaction. It was a violent reaction to kill a living thing because it hurt you, because you provoked it to. Okay? Mm-hmm. When you boil it down to that, it's very similar. Again, I don't wish that upon him. If I had to bet money, I wouldn't say that he's ever gonna hurt a woman or any other human being. But based on that situation, is it a possibility in my mind? Absolutely. Just like it would be in anyone else's mind if we were talking about a human being. Like my example with a criminal, right? Or if you were convicted of doing drugs, what do you think people's perception of you is going to be? That most likely you're going to try to go get drugs again, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And that's all I have to argue with. So,
I just don't think there's enough substance there.
Yeah. Well, we disagree.
Fair enough.
Neither of us has all the information.
Of course. And this is a year-old issue, but it has just continued on. It's the running, as I said, it's the running joke with Brent Bonfleur, who, I want to say, mocks the image that is Jack Ganwish. And we make him out to be this great guy.
Yeah.
And Brent,
I'm sure he's somewhere in between.
Doesn't think so.
I bet you he's somewhere in between.
I don't think that he's.
I don't think he's a golden idol of excellence and character.
Yeah.
But I also don't think he's a ISIS terrorist or a woman beater. So somewhere in between.
And Alex Lewis.
As most of us are.
I just say, you look like for it. I'm bringing up the spotlight thing because this is just what happened with Tommy Armstrong, Jordan Westerkamp, Trey Foster.
Mm-hmm.
They put themselves in a situation where their names are connected to this. Now, they might not be guilty. We still don't know. Mm-hmm. Lincoln Police will still not talk about this issue, despite pressing matters from the media. But that's a whole nother story. Their names are still connected to it because it happened at the residence.
Mm-hmm.
So we know what they do with their free time.
They party.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So they are now no longer the clean golden standards that we think they are. Because this is what some people are missing.
Yeah.
They're missing the point that there was partying going on.
Mm-hmm.
Channel 8 Eyewitness News reporter Laura Wilson said it in her story.
Mm-hmm.
There was partying going on.
That has been confirmed. Yep, it was at a party. The players confirmed
that tells you what the players do in their free... What some players do in their free time.
Mm-hmm. And probably many.
Exactly.
Players.
And it wasn't just Channel 8. It was the World Herald. It was the Journal-Star. It was probably 10/11 News. It was probably all sorts of media outlets that reported this in their own way. But the base fact of it is there was partying going on. If they can't remember, if there are conflicting things, that probably means alcohol was a factor, number one. Mm-hmm. So that tells you what they want to do with their free time.
Right.
In the middle of a season, mind you.
Right. Maybe that's why they're 5 and 6.
What their true characters really are. How they view the popular positions that they are in. Mm-hmm. And my point bringing this back to Jack Ganwish is you don't see that from him. Jack Ganwish was by himself doing a stupid thing, yes.
Right.
I will not throw that away by any matter.
Right.
But you won't and haven't, and I don't think you will see Jack Ganwish even come remotely close to something like this. Because he is not on the level of popularity, I guess, as Jordan Westerkamp, Tommy Armstrong.
Right.
He's probably higher up than Trey Foster, who
I love how they threw that in there.
No,
and
he was
also
there.
Trey Foster.
They were there.
Yeah, right.
He was there. And
who gives a crap?
What? Who? Oh, that guy who used to play sometimes.
Like tight end or something?
Yeah,
or
he's a
linebacker?
tight end.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all scratching our heads about. Trey Foster, he lumped into there. But anyways, the point is, Jack Ganwish, to me, is not defined, and his future, his possibility for his future is not defined by that event.
No, not wholly. No, and that's why, again, I made it very clear. We're just talking about this one event. That's why
Which,
I didn't
at the
think
end
that...
of the day, I think is a non-story, and you think is...
I think it's a non...
something to keep an eye on.
It's
right?
It's not a story to be widely publicized in the sense of what we would think of as a story, right? Something to be published.
Of course.
No. Is it something that, yes, should be monitored? I think so.
Yeah.
Now, people closer to him who know him better, okay, no. He's a great guy. This is the only time in his life this has ever happened.
It was a young, stupid thing.
It was also
and
a
only
stupid thing.
young, stupid thing.
No, it was both.
You think it was both? I don't think so.
No.
But it is what it is.
I'd love to talk to Jack Ganwish and actually get to know him.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, it's both.
Fair. Well,
we'll agree to disagree.
Exactly.
Apparently.
On certain aspects. I will
Although
say
I'm
that,
right.
Again, as I said, I will not disagree that what he did was a dumb thing. That was a dumb thing. Why, as it says in our intro, go over to the museum, crouch down next to the stuffed raccoon behind the glass, take a selfie that way.
Yeah.
There
you go.
Or
go to the zoo.
Go to the zoo.
And don't stick your hand in the tiger cage.
At 7 o'clock in the morning or possibly before. Don't sneak into zoos.
That's a bad idea.
It's
how do you even
not very much fun, is it?
How do you even sneak into a zoo? Those things have tighter security than airports.
Not on some sides of the zoo. I have seen some portions of the zoo where there are houses right next door to it.
That's true.
All you have to do is just walk through a neighborhood and then jump
Hop
over
a
the
fence,
and boom, you're right there into the zoo.
That's true. Good point.
So yeah. Speaking of worlds and things of that nature,
it's time now for
It's your world, and we're just living in it.
A story about a selfish athlete, coach, or just a person in general from the week.
So, Saturday afternoon into the evening, I should say. Just incredible. And this is where Michigan State and Ohio State comes in. This is really, it's shocking. I don't know. To me, what happened with Ohio State losing to Michigan State and Ezekiel Elliott's comments, as well as I'm trying to find out who else said it. Was it JT Barrett, Brent? It was him.
I only saw Ezekiel Elliott.
Him and somebody else immediately declared for the NFL draft after last night's loss.
I did not know that.
Oh, you didn't see this?
No, I thought.
Oh my gosh!
I thought it was just the comments.
No, it was a much bigger deal. I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find who else said that they're going with him. But Ezekiel Elliott and another big-time Ohio State player, basically after last night's loss, were so bent out of shape and frustrated that they said, we're done. We're done dealing with Urban Meyer. We're done dealing with the play calling. And we're going to declare for the NFL draft. And we're out of here. See you later.
Good luck to them.
Yeah. So, attention. Cardale Jones. That's right. Cardale Jones and Ezekiel Elliott both basically declared for the NFL draft last night after the loss to Michigan State because they didn't like Urban Meyer's play calling. Now, this is again one of those cases where, yes, should Urban Meyer have run the ball more? Absolutely. This is a Heisman Trophy candidate in Ezekiel Elliott.
Right.
Should have him run the football a little bit more than just 15 times for 44 yards. Excuse me, that was JT Barrett. Even worse, 12 times for 33 yards. You probably should do that a little bit more, But Ezekiel Elliott just decided, I'm gonna throw this one's on the coach because I think I'm all that in the bag of chips, Heisman Trophy candidate. I'm going to the NFL. I can do whatever I want there, and it's basically, at the end of the day, it's like, all right. Well, you're about ready to get slapped in the face when you get to the pro level because you don't do whatever the hell you want in the NFL.
Yeah.
You don't do whatever the hell. Well, you kind of do actually in college. And then you go to the NFL and then you get a wake-up call. Kind of like another great player that we know of.
Speaking of the Cleveland Browns, they play in the AFC.
That's right.
Manziel.
Old Johnny Football Manziel party time.
Now, I do think Ezekiel Elliott has pretty translatable NFL talent. I think he's in most people, like the top 5 running backs to go in this class. He'll probably be in there. So it's not like he's just going to completely flop, I don't think. But yeah, he's going to get a bit of a rude awakening, just like they all do, except for Todd Gurley, apparently. He was just waiting to...
Todd Gurley is a little bit more humble about how he goes about life. Well, at least from what we see on the field and off the field and social media. But as I was telling a friend of mine earlier this morning, social media really does bring out the the truth about people in what they post.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a stupid thing to post, right?
Yeah.
Probably because he was angry about the loss.
Oh, yeah.
Am I right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit different.
I know. I'm not saying it's the same.
It's also what your morals were and how you were raised, too.
Yeah, listen, Ezekiel Elliott, if you're trying to, take a stab at Urban Meyer,
good luck.
He and Ohio State are going to be just fine, okay? They had Carlos Hyde, and everyone's like, oh, how are you going to replace Carlos Hyde? And then Ezekiel Elliott came on the scene, right?
Yeah.
Well, they've got the next guy just waiting to take the spot.
Yeah.
Ohio State is so insanely loaded with talented football players, really talented football players, not Nebraska talented football players, really talented football players, that it's really just the next guy up. They'll be okay without Ezekiel Elliott. And they might actually have a guy that better fits their system going into next season, because who's going to be their quarterback?
JT Barrett, probably.
Oh, I thought he declared too.
No.
Well,
Cardale
Braxton Miller's
Jones
gone.
did.
Cardale Jones is gone. Okay, so JT Barrett, yeah. I mean, he did fine without Ezekiel Elliott, right? He was a Heisman contender without Ezekiel Elliott.
Last year, yeah.
They'll be okay. So,
and
I like Ezekiel Elliott. I was rooting for him. Yeah, because I like Urban Meyer and thus like Ohio State because he is there. I think Urban Meyer liked Ezekiel Elliott, although granted, when you got a guy who's getting you 100 yards every game, you're probably going to like him.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be fine. This is no big deal to anyone, I think, except for Ezekiel Elliott.
And Cardale Jones.
Who,
if I may
give me
say,
a break. I mean, now
Cardale Jones reiterating that he's going to declare that he's declaring for the draft. That's basically him all butthurt because he thinks he could do a better job. When the fact of the matter is, you can't.
Stunk it up.
You have not proven anything this year except the first game of the year against Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
And you have been figured out. That's the thing he doesn't get. Other teams now have film on you.
Right.
That's the opposite of the reason why Northwestern is having success this year. Because they didn't have film on that quarterback there. They do now, but they've been able to overcome it, and they are able to produce. Cardale Jones has not. Plus, there's also another pretty darn good quarterback sitting behind him named JT Barrett, who's proven successful as well.
Right.
So if you're not getting the job done, and you didn't, because other teams are finally figuring you out because there's enough tape on you, enough consistent tape on you and what you do, well, Urban Meyer's just going to go back to JT Barrett, who has proven success.
And he's going to be all right.
Yeah, and they have been okay, but they haven't been like they were last year.
No, that's not necessarily true.
Well,
as far as scoring margin, because people weren't paying attention as much.
But it hasn't been as dominant.
Yeah, it has not been quite as dominant.
There have been closer games for Ohio State this year than
but they're
there was
still
last
not really
year.
That close. I mean, 14 points is not that close of a game.
Well, 28 isn't close either, and that was about the margin for some games last year.
Yeah.
So this year, little different, but
it's higher standards, pretty much the same production, although there has been a production drop-off. I'll give you that.
Ezekiel Elliott is, for him, it's not realizing that it's not your world, and we're all just living in it.
Right.
For Cardale Jones, it's being more of a little whiny baby, not getting what you want, and understanding the circumstances that surround you, as in there's tape on you.
Right.
Teams are going to figure you out now.
I think he's going to flop in the NFL.
He will.
I think he will. Now, he may not, because, I didn't think Jameis Winston was going to be very good either.
He's having an average rookie season.
Pretty good for a rookie, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit above average rookie season.
I'd say he's like at a B minus.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
B minus.
I'd go with that.
So,
but yeah, Cardale Jones.
I'd say
Ezekiel
so
Elliott.
long to him. I'm a little sad if I'm Urban Meyer to see Ezekiel Elliott go, but again, I think he'll be able to find a guy. There's probably a guy waiting in the wings who's just as good.
And there's better potential for Ezekiel Elliott than Cardale Jones.
Oh yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, Mr. Brent Bonfleur, to Cardale Jones and Ezekiel Elliott.
It's your world, and we're just living in it.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
That's right, Coach. Absolutely.
Good luck, fellas.
Yeah.
We'll see you next year.
Certainly. Probably not in as much playing time as you're getting right now, too, by the way.
Yeah.
We move on to predictions. We failed to do them last week. We failed to post them on the Facebook page. I do apologize. We also apologize for not having the 2 editions of It's Your World and We're Just Living in It. We had a technical problem with the recording, so we unfortunately got cut off halfway through, so we just cut them all out. There were some good ones, though. The referee telling the band and the cheerleaders to be quiet when that's their job. And, of course, the best one of them all that you read off, Bo Pelini, which I guess we've talked about enough here today.
Yeah.
So we move into predictions. We had a whole bunch of college basketball, but we had a whole bunch of basketball, football games last week. We don't have any really good college basketball games this week because there wasn't enough there. There was UConn and Michigan, but I guess that's really not enough substance. So we got a whole bunch of college football games.
Oh, yeah.
And we will post the rest of our predictions on the Facebook page, facebook.com/theround2. Let us do these college football games, and we'll do these on air only. Starting with a great one down in Houston, Navy and Houston, man. Oh, classic matchup on Friday at 11 a.m. Not Nebraska, Iowa at 11 a.m. Navy
2:30. Yeah.
At 11 a.m.
Thank goodness. I get to sleep
Friday.
in a few hours.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
This is like the classic battle of 2 different styles. Obviously Navy just pounds the ball the entire game. Oh, they aired it out a lot this last game.
I know.
Like 270 passing yards or something on like 9 attempts. Some crazy numbers. But I think Navy, they're just... Because they can take up so much time with how their offense works. Not that saying that Houston can't have long drives, but, I'm going to go with Navy.
I'm going to go with Navy, too. I think if Navy can roll in and beat high and mighty Memphis, they can go down and beat high and mighty Houston, who just lost their first game of the season yesterday to UConn. So I'm going with Navy. I think undefeated season. I think Navy is undefeated to this point on the year. I want to make sure I've got that right, but I think Navy...
No, they've got a loss.
They've got one loss?
I think it's to Notre Dame.
I'm sorry. They're undefeated in conference play. They have one loss overall, 7-0 in the AAC, American Athletic Conference. All right, now Baylor and TCU. This isn't as big as we were all praying and hoping it would be earlier in the year, but it's still a good one to predict.
Baylor. I think, the only part of me that speaks to TCU winning is the unreasonable part, which is like, well, it's all crazy in college football. It's been all crazy so far.
It's usually crazy in the Big 12.
So, yeah, even crazier there. But if you're going with who really should win this game, it's Baylor.
Yeah, I agree. But it's probably going to end up being TCU.
You think so?
I think so. Just because that seems to be pointing towards the scenario that it's going to be. Oklahoma will win against Oklahoma State. Spoiler alert with my prediction right there. But I'm thinking, realistically, I'm going with Baylor.
Yeah.
But I think TCU is probably going to win it. You never know. Speaking of thinking of who's going to win it, Ohio State and Michigan in the big house. Big old Jim Harbaugh.
Well, I don't know if your 2 best players, one of whom's a backup, are already off to the NFL. Are they going to be playing that hard? I don't know. Again, if the unreasonable part of me is saying pick Michigan, and I think it's a lot closer in this one than the TCU Baylor one. But I think if you're betting money, you go with Ohio State.
You're going with Ohio State?
Yeah.
I'm going with Michigan.
Really?
Oh, Michigan's going to be so fired up for that game.
Not going to surprise me if
Jim
they win,
Harbaugh has been waiting for this game, and now that Michigan State beat Michigan, now the Wolverines are just licking their chops. They are ready to go. There's, I guess, not really, there's chaos going on right now at Ohio State, and Michigan's just going to jump all over that, and they're going to win. Oh, man. We could have another fight break out in this one, man.
Oh,
there could be a fight like there was 2 years ago, I think. Oh, going to be great.
Yeah.
We're going to save this next one for last. Notre Dame and Stanford. This is what we're going with right now.
All right, this is the one where I think the unreasonable wins out, and I think you go with Stanford here. I think this is the upset.
I agree. I think Stanford will win this one. It's at Stanford.
Yeah, that's tough.
However, Stanford played Oregon, and we always think that, maybe this is the year that Stanford will be able to beat Oregon at home. Oregon's not that good. Stanford is. And that didn't happen.
500 yards and 6 touchdowns later.
Just like when Stanford plays Oregon at Oregon, Stanford wins. It makes no sense, but this is Notre Dame, and I think Stanford's going to win. I really, really think they're going to win. Oklahoma State. I said Oklahoma. Brent says
Oklahoma. I think they're more complete.
Oklahoma State's been broken at home now.
Yeah,
Baylor did that to them.
I think this is sort of, like one of those, that Alabama LSU game. I think it took a little bit of the fire out, and I think Oklahoma's surging, so Oklahoma.
And finally, coming off of an overtime win against Florida Atlantic.
Momentum, baby.
In Gainesville. Nothing like I don't even get me started on that. What say you, Brent? Well, no, I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
I'm going with Florida. I think, I'm going with Florida because Florida State went into Clemson and they got owned. And who's to say that Gainesville isn't as rough and tough when it's a rivalry game?
It's pretty close.
So Florida.
Wow. Good for you. I was really expecting you to go Florida State the whole way.
I don't think Sean McGuire can do it.
Yeah,
he couldn't do it at Clemson. How am I going to expect him to do it in Florida?
That's the thing. And Florida's defense is so incredibly good.
Well,
top 5 in the country. They can shut down the run, and then their cornerbacks and safeties are even better. So,
I guess.
if you can't get Dalvin Cook going, which, let's face it, he's a Heisman contender. He'll have his share. It's going to be mitigated a bit.
However, if Florida can't get their offense going...
Well, that's the question here. But I think when you look at how... Florida has a good running game is the thing, though, and that's better. They've got dangerous big play receivers. The quarterback is the only issue. So I think when you compare overall the strengths and weaknesses, Florida's better, just slightly eke out a win for their final game.
Fair enough. That's going to do it for our predictions, and of course, that's also going to do it for our show. Great show.
Yeah, it's long. How long was this?
Pretty long. We do apologize for that. Half an hour over.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I do apologize, but once
again, talking about raccoons,
we came in with
happen.
Just about nothing to talk about, and we ended up with an hour and a half show.
That's how it goes.
So, good stuff, though. Be sure to be watching for a podcast to be aired tomorrow on our Facebook, Twitter, and other various social media outlets. Doug Lowry and John Kipper will be joining me. If you thought the debate between myself and Brent was great, you got to hear the arguments that happen between these two fellas. John Kipper and Doug Lowry bring it, and it's always good. So be sure to catch that podcast airing tomorrow, Monday, November the 23rd. For Brent, I'm Ryan. Hope you enjoyed today. We will see you next week.